Connecting the world's data. This is Newsstream.
Welcome to Neural Pulse, your daily AI briefing.
Today we are doing a deep dive into the events around December 13th, 2025. And we're not looking at these as, isolated incidents on the newswire.
No, not at all.
We're analyzing what our sources are calling structural fault lines. These are the points where the old orders, geopolitical, military, economic, tonomic, are all starting to crack at the same time.
And that's really the mission for today's dive, isn't it? To connect these things that seem totally disconnected. We've got a huge high-tech attack on air travel in India.
Cyber-Kinetic one, yeah.
Then there's a hair-raising military standoff in the East China Sea. And at the same time, this shocking market collapse for European luxury brands, Gucci, Louis Vuitton.
They look separate, but when you zoom out, you see it's all part of this unified, increasing revisionist pressure on the whole system. The message is pretty clear. Power is shifting. And knowledge, especially tech, is being weaponized faster than ever.
And that's the most fascinating part, connecting those dots. I mean, how is the price of a handbag in any way connected to a Chinese fighter jet locking its radar onto a Japanese plane?
And how are commercial airliners being tricked by electronic warfare?
Exactly. This report is the shortcut to understanding all those interconnected risks the world is facing right now.
So let's unpack this. We should probably start with the most alarming display of high-tech power. The convergence of cyber and physical threats in South Asia.
We're talking about Operation Indigo, a major campaign targeting India's airports. We're talking Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, all hit with these massive GPS problems that force pilots into emergency procedures. Just chaos.
It was far more than chaos. It was a strategic demonstration. Pilots on final approach suddenly see their instruments are just wrong. Completely wrong positions, wrong altitudes.
So they have to ditch the modern systems.
You had to abandon the satellite-based navigation, the GNSS, and go back to older, slower, ground-based systems like ILS or VOR. It's a huge, dangerous step backward.
So wait, if they didn't just block the signal, which is what we call jamming, how did they trick the planes into thinking they were somewhere else? What's the tech behind that?
And that is the key detail. This wasn't jamming. This was sophisticated GPS spoofing, a deception attack. It's like someone slipped you a perfectly forged map while you were driving.
And you wouldn't even know.
You wouldn't know. The attackers are blasting these powerful false signals from the ground, strong enough to just override the weak satellite signal the plane is trying to listen to.
So they're literally overriding reality with a manufactured lie.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And intelligence is connecting this physical EW operation to a digital one. An Indian airline, Indigo, was hit at the same time with this very specific malware.
Called Indigo.
It's a variant, DRV-2. The threat actor is Tag 140, which we know as APT36, a group based out of Pakistan.
The fact that they can name the group and the malware means they're certain of the origin. And that changes everything for India's response.
Absolutely. So big picture, this is a soft kill capability test. It's an electronic warfare rehearsal in a very sensitive civilian space. They're showing they can attack critical national infrastructure, the CNI, without firing a single missile.
We've seen this playbook before, right?
We saw Russian forces use these tactics in the Black and Baltic Seas. Now we're seeing it spread to South Asia.
So if that's the invisible war in the air, let's pivot to the very visible military pressure that's changing maps. We need to talk about the East China Sea and this idea of creating facts on the ground.
This is a perfect example of using force to change the status quo.
Yeah.
We're talking about the fire control radar lock-on, a Chinese J-15 fighter from the carrier Liaoning, targeting a Japanese F-15J.
An FCR lock-on is the final step before you fire. It's a hostile act, full stop. But the detail that really stands out here is the duration, an unusual 30 minutes of intermittent lock-on.
30 minutes. I mean, that is not a warning shot. It's not a glitch. That is a calculated command-level compellence tactic. It's intentional bullying to force that Japanese plane to back off.
And then comes the narrative battle, right? China releases audio claiming they gave a radio warning that they were starting flight ops.
Right, trying to paint Japan as the reckless one for getting within 50 kilometers of their carrier.
But the Japanese counter-narrative says a local radio call isn't the international standard.
They fired back, pointing out that China never issued a formal NOTEMA notice to air missions. That's the required procedure.
So what China's doing is trying to claim exclusive control over international airspace, using their own local rules instead of the actual international ones.
Precisely. This is textbook salami slicing. It's the strategy of taking lots of small actions that, on their own, don't seem like a big deal.
Yeah.
But over time, they add up to a huge, irreversible change.
And this geopolitical pressure, it isn't just military, it's also legal. At the same time this is happening, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi is rolling out a new doctrine on Taiwan.
The seven-layer confirmation doctrine. This is a very sophisticated piece of what we call lawfare, using legal systems as a weapon.
How does that work?
He's trying to lock Taiwan's status as part of China by stacking 7 historical and legal documents, everything from the Cairo Declaration up to UN Resolution 2758.
So it's designed to legally block any claim that Taiwan's status is somehow undetermined?
Exactly. It creates this legal fortress. And he got strong support for it from the UAE on his trip, which shows the other part of the strategy, building a non-Western support base for these goals while locking down energy ties.
Okay, that's a perfect bridge. Because if hard power is shifting the map, that same kind of pressure is happening in the cultural and economic world. Let's pivot to that, the economic and cultural fault line.
The stock market turmoil was just brutal. Capitulation for luxury houses like LVMH and Kering, which owns Gucci. Capitulation means investors have just lost all hope and are selling off massively.
And Kering reported what, a 16% drop in sales?
A painful 16%.
Yeah.
And this isn't just a normal downturn.
No, our sources are saying this is a deep cultural shift in their most important market, China. The cause is this trend spreading on social media, especially on Xiaohongshu, called luxury shame.
And that is devastating for these brands. Overt, logo-heavy foreign luxury is no longer seen as aspirational. It's now seen as, airheaded, wasteful, even linked to corruption.
Which is directly tied to the government's common prosperity push.
Right.
And just deep economic anxiety, especially for young people. You don't flash a $5,000 bag when your friends can't find jobs.
Exactly. It's a value decoupling. Chinese consumers are moving to quiet luxury, no logos, domestic designers like Song want functional quality, and you can see who's winning.
Right. So while Gucci is struggling, Lululemon and Ralph Lauren are doing better. Ralph Lauren is riding that whole old money aesthetic trend.
Which suggests consumers want timeless quality, not flashy logos that now feel politically incorrect.
And all this is happening while the broader market is uncertain. We saw crypto take a hit, Bitcoin around 90,000, Ethereum near 3 because of that uncertainty and ETF outflows.
Plus, you have Europe's industrial core struggling. Volkswagen facing huge labor disputes, job cuts. This pressure of deindustrialization is real. All these shifts show a world that's, well, it's fragmenting.
And that fragmentation brings us to our last segment, zones of state decay and repartition. This is where hard power is creating permanent facts on the map.
Let's start in the Middle East and Syria. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, have been making incursions into the Quneitra Governorate, setting up checkpoints now that the Assad regime is gone.
And that connects to this massive project, the Crimson Thread.
It's a 5.5 billion shekel project, a 300-mile wall and road network.
That is a definitive statement. Israel is basically using hard power to seal its borders with Syria and Jordan, ignoring the 1974 agreements.
It's a classic case of physical facts over diplomacy in a time of chaos. The physical wall will remain, regardless of the politics.
But the Saudis are playing it differently. While Israel builds walls, Saudi Arabia is moving in with money, signing deals with Syria's state oil company to repair infrastructure.
That's economic containment. It's a soft power play to pull Syria back into the Arab sphere and, critically, away from Iran and Russia. 2 totally different kinds of power being used on the same broken state.
Now, let's talk about Sudan, which our sources are describing as undergoing a full Libyanization, an irreversible split.
The capture of the SCF command post in Baba Nusa by the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, was the turning point. It cut the Sudanese armed forces' access to Darfur. It confirms the partition of the country.
And the human cost is just catastrophic. The World Food Program announced huge cuts, up to 70% in some areas.
Because they have a nearly $700 million funding shortfall. The implication is horrific. Starvation is being used as a tool of political control. The forces that control the food control the people. It's the weaponization of hunger.
Finally, let's just touch on the political paralysis in South Korea, a major economy facing a huge threat. We saw the former defense minister indicted for leaking military secrets.
And, maybe even more alarming, the indictment of the former acting president for dereliction of duty, for failing to fill court vacancies needed for impeachment.
Indictments at that level signal a complete leadership vacuum. For a country that needs absolute stability, that paralysis is an existential crisis.
So, let's put it all together. What did December 13th really show us? The main theme is that global risks are no longer dispersed. They're genuinely interlinked crises.
So we've got three major takeaways from all these sources, connecting the jets, the malware, and the handbags for you.
First, hard power prevails. Whether it's Israel's wall, China's radar lock, or the RSF in Sudan, creating irreversible facts on the ground is winning out over diplomacy.
Second, infrastructure is the new front line. The GPS spoofing in India proves that high-tech cyber and electronic attacks are the first step, testing weaknesses before any physical destruction happens.
And third, value decoupling. The luxury shame trend in China is a huge cultural shift. Western consumer values are not universal anymore. Local and domestic values are taking over.
What's amazing is the role of technology in all of this. I mean, if information is being weaponized to trick airliners and social media is being used to police economic status, where does the next fault line appear? In finance, in digital governance. Something to think about.
Neural Pulse drops every day at 7 a.m. Eastern. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications to start your morning with the signal. Have a productive day, everyone. See you tomorrow.